Good evening. Welcome to another episode of NBA Sports Talk with Walter Strong III. And this evening, we're going to be breaking down the top 10 NBA power forwards of all time, the best of the best. Did you know Shaq has his top 10 list of all best NBA players? Bird has his. Dr. J has his. But what about you? What about me? What about the NBA fans on NBA Sports Talk with Walter Strong III? This evening, we're going to break down our top 10, our best of the best tonight on NBA Sports Talk with Walter Strong III. Praise the Lord, everyone. Welcome to NBA Sports Talk with Walter Strong III. Hey, if you are a fan of NBA basketball who likes to talk NBA sports and more, we welcome you to the show. And as we said, this evening, we're going to be talking about the best of the best, the creme a la creme, NBA's top 10 power forwards of all time. And so we are excited this evening. And so if you are watching us on YouTube or LinkedIn, let us know in the chat where you're watching us from. Give us a hashtag Team Live. As the late, great, my man DMX said, let's get it on. We don't want to go too far. I don't want YouTube to shut us down with a claim, but we are excited. So let's just see who's in the chat with us this evening. Oh my goodness, we got legends all in the chat from LinkedIn to YouTube. Mr. Gabe Lieb in the house. Hey man, what's up? Good evening. Good evening. Oh yeah, and then we got our dear sister, Washington Wizards finest fan of all time, Florence Donald from Equip Institute. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, look at this man. He's already throwing names out already on the list. He's saying the big fundamental. Oh, man, get your list together, Gabe. Get your list together. Get your list together. And then we got my man, Action Jackson. What's up, sir? Yes, yes, we are going to get started. So since Gabe is already through the first shot and said, hey, let's get into the discussion. Let's fire up the stream deck and get into this discussion. Get your pen, get your pad. It's time to go to work. It's time to break down this top 10 power forwards, the best of all time. You know, it's interesting. Shaq just recently put out his top 10, and then Bird put out his top 10, and Dr. J put out his top 10, and then the barber over at the barbershop put out his top 10. And I said, you know what? We got to bring out our top 10. And let me tell you why I want to do this top 10 a little different, Gabe. Let me tell you why I want to do this top 10 a little different, Frank and Florence. I remember when I was young and I used to watch pro wrestling. They call it sports entertainment, but pro wrestling. And there used to be a wrestling magazine I used to buy called Pro Wrestling Illustrated. And what they used to do when they broke down their top 10 with the WWF, now the WWE, the WCW, AWA, the different territories, international, from Japan to Mexico, to the most favorite wrestler to the most hated wrestler. They used to break it up in categories. So I said, before we get to the best of the best, let's start with each category and start with the power forwards, because in today's NBA, it's become a positionless team sport where you don't have the big man at 5 anymore, and you don't certainly have the power forward. So we got to show some love to the power forward. So let's get started here. Let's get started. I want to shrink myself because we need to get into the content. Okay, perfect. That's perfect. There we go. Number 10. I got to give me a sound effect and go, number 10, Mr. Larry Johnson, a.k.a. Grandmama, who started with the the Charlotte Hornets and finished his career with the New York Knickerbockers for 10 seasons. 10 seasons. He's my number 10. Put your number 10 in the chat for me as you're jumping in tonight, whether if you're on LinkedIn or YouTube. Grandmama for 10 seasons was a two-time All-Star. He was the Rookie of the Year for the 1991 and pardon the era there, 1992 season. He was averaging 16.2 points per season, 7.5 rebounds, 3.3 assists. This man, a lot of people talk about in terms of, the players that were back in the early 90s that were really making noise. This guy, though there was Penny Hardaway and he had his little Penny persona, but he had Grandmama. This man had an explosive game. Oh, he was doing work as a power forward. Sometimes even went small forward, but for the most part, he was doing work on brothers like Terry Cummings. He was doing work on brothers like Charles Barkley. He was doing work. Oh, he was doing work on Karl Malone. But then, unfortunately, he ended up having a back injury, and he ended up having to adjust his game. And he ended up pulling, having a nice pull-up mid-range shot and then developing a three-point shot. But he never really had that explosiveness because of the back injury. But, through it all, for his 10 seasons, man, he had the complete package. He had what was going on. He unfortunately couldn't be that breakout superstar, but for the time where he was doing work, from the time he became Rookie of the Year to his first 4 seasons, he was teamed up with Alonzo Mourning, and the brothers were doing work over there in Charlotte. But then personalities got in the way, and so Johnson came over to the Knicks, and I like the way he adjusted his game. He knew he wasn't going to be the first option because that belonged to Patrick Ewing. He knew he wasn't going to be the second or third option because that belonged to Allen Houston and Latrell Sprewell. Oh, that's a name for you. That's a name. We'll get into that when it comes to the small forwards. But he still contributed even as a fourth option. And if you remember your history when they were playing the Pacers and the Pacers were up by 3 in the playoffs, Grandmama Larry Johnson hits a 3-point play, getting fouled, ultimately turning it into a 4-point play where the Knicks end up beating the Pacers. This is my number 10. I need to know in the chat. See, Gabe, you already throw Tim Duncan. I need to know your number 10. I need to know your 10. Let me come back over here to the chat. We see who else we got here. We have in the chat with us this evening, Mr. Dr. Jamal Strauss. Good evening, sir. Oh, yeah, he got Tim. He got Dirk. Oh, yeah, we're going to get into some of these names tonight. We're going to get into them. Karl Malone, yes, we're going to definitely get into it. Charles Barkley, these are the best of the best. I get it. People want to talk about LeBron and MJ. I get it. People want to talk about Kobe and MJ. But we got to show some loves to the forwards. We got to show some loves. Gabe says, Kevin Garnett, the big ticket. We're going to get into it. Florence says, Larry Bird. Yes, definitely. He was another one. My man, Action Jackson. Oh, he going old school on us. Dave DeBuscher. Yes, sir. We keep those names coming. Keep those names. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the best of the best, the creme of the creme, the top 10 NBA power forwards of all time here on NBA Sports Talk with your boy Walter Strong III. If you're just joining us, give us a hashtag Team Live. Click up that thumbs up button on LinkedIn and YouTube and give us and share this on your favorite social media platform. Man, we just at number 10 and the chat is on fire with all types of different names. So, are you ready for number 9? When we get our screen set back, right? Number 9. Here's a name for you. Zach Randolph. Zebo of Michigan State. college over there with Steve Izzo. Some of the teams he was known for the most part was the Blazers, the Grizzlies, and the Knicks for 17 seasons. This brother did work from back to the basket. A two-time All-Star player, most improved player of the year. He was scoring 16.6 points a season, 9.1 rebounds, 1.8 assists. Hey, this is another power forward that we don't hear about. You don't hear them talking on ESPN, and you don't hear them talking about on Fox Sports or on the internet. These are not names that even our young people who are playing basketball don't even know about. And so I wanted to start out this list by doing a little history, by going with Grandmama and then Zebo, Zach Randolph. Let's move forward. Number 8, Rasheed Wallace, who was initially with the Washington Bullets. Do you remember when they were called the Washington Bullets, now the Washington Wizards? He was just there for a brief moment with Chris Webber and Juwan Howard. He gets traded over to Portland. And this brother, a Tar Heel, this brother was talented. He was talented, but he was a hothead. This brother was breaking all types of records for technical fouls, getting thrown out of games. And unfortunately, having that stigma over there with the Blazers being called the Jail Blazers, but for 16 seasons. This brother did work, Frank. This brother did work. He did work. Oh, my goodness. 4-time All-Star. An NBA champion. Did you not know he was an NBA champion when he came over to the Detroit Pistons in 2004 with Ben Wallace and Chauncey Billups and Rip Hamilton? Oh, I'm a Piston fan, so I got to remind you of that. 16.7 rebounds, 1.8 assists. This brother did work. This is the number 8. Let me know in the chat. You're 10, you're 9, you're 8. Keep throwing those names out, either if you're on LinkedIn or YouTube. And if you are just watching, come and joining the replay of this, give us a hashtag Team Replay in the comments section on LinkedIn or YouTube. Great. Hey, if you're getting great value out of our discussion of the top 10 NBA power forwards of all time here on NBA Sports Talk with Walter Strong III, do me a favor, click that thumbs up button, hit that thumbs up, share this on your favorite social media platform. And if you're just joining us for the first time, hey, we would love for you to subscribe to the channel. Click the alert notification button so that you will be alerted when we go live here on NBA Sports Talk with Walter Strong III. Join the conversation in the live chat. All right, we're moving along. Number 7. Here's a good one. A good one from Detroit, Michigan, Chris Webber. Some of the teams that he was known for was the Kings, the Sacramento. I'm gonna be nice. The Sacramento Kings, not the Sacramento Queens. I'm gonna be nice. The Philadelphia 76ers. And oh, yes, he played for my Detroit Pistons for a brief moment. For 15 seasons, this brother did work. 5-time All-Star, 1993 Rookie of the Year, 20.7 points, 9.8 rebounds, 4.2 assists. He did some serious work in Sacramento. This brother was doing some work. But unfortunately, he ran up against the Diesel. He ran up against Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Rick Fox, and those Lakers. And unfortunately, the Kings could not get over the hump. And eventually, Sacramento started to say, hey, let's go into a different direction. They end up trading Chris over to the Philadelphia 76ers, where he played with Allen Iverson, with him and some of the other players, and had some runs there, but eventually went over to the Pistons. But eventually his career ended up phasing out. That's our number 7. Let's keep going. Number 6, the best of all best power forwards, Mr. Kevin McHale. I want to show some homage to some of our power forwards of the 90s and the 2000s, but I got to go back and show some love to Kevin McHale from the Boston Celtics for 13 seasons. You know, it's interesting when I was doing my research on this guy, Frank, Florence, and Gabe, and Dr. Jamal. It's interesting. This guy was playing 81 to 82 seasons, 81 to 82 games for almost the first 6 seasons of his career. This brother was really Mr. Consistency. He was really being an Iron Man over there with, with the Celtics. 7-time All-Star. Here's something for you: a 2-time Sixth Man of the Year, 7.3 rebounds, 1.7. Of course, he was playing with Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge. So he won him a title or two. And so this is our number 6 here as the best power forwards of all times in NBA history. All right. Number 5. Now, someone put in the chat Dirk Nowitzki. Here we go at number 5. Number 5. Now, from a historic standpoint, he initially got drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks, then ultimately being traded over to the Dallas Mavericks, and for 21 seasons. This brother from Germany did some serious work for 21 seasons, a 14-time All-Star, NBA champion, a regular season MVP, a finals MVP, 20.7 points per season, 7.5 rebounds, 2.4 assists. Dirk was doing work. Oh, I like that. Dirk was doing work. I'll do that one more time. Dirk was doing work. He was doing some serious work in Sacramento. I mean, in Dallas, on players like Chris Webber on Sacramento and other fours that he was up against. He was having some serious battles with Mr. Big Fundamental, Tim Duncan. So this guy here is my number 5. All right. Hey, do me a favor. We're moving along on this top 10 list. Make sure you click that thumbs up button, hit that share button on LinkedIn or YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed to NBA Sports Talk with Walter Strong III, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel, click the alert notification button, join the conversation in the live chat or on Team Replay, the comment section. Let's just jump back over. I see quite a flurry of comments. Let's see if I covered these. Frank said, yes, Frank went old school on us. Dave the Busher. Okay, he got look at you, Frank. And Frank, I was going to save this name for some special honorable mentions, but we'll throw him out now. Sean Kemp, the Rain Man. This boy, oh my goodness. Man, I used to love watching the Seattle Supersonics with Gary Payton, Nate McMillan, Tepler Shrimp. Who else we had? Big Perk, Sam Perkins. There was so, and you had George Karl there. But unfortunately, this is a person who, once he got paid and got his bag and got traded over to the Cleveland Cavaliers, it seems like his career ended up taking a nosedive after getting a hold of that money. And he ended up, unfortunately, because of, substance abuse issues and not keeping his weight on, he unfortunately ended up derailing a career that definitely could have made some serious noise and even possibly going to the Hall of Fame. But he did self-destructive work on himself it's just sad. It's just sad. So he's definitely my honorable mention. Oh yes, Dennis Rodman. I could see putting Worm at the 4, but because you had others like James Edwards, you had John Sally, for the most part on those Pistons teams. Worm played 3 because he took when the Pistons traded Adrian Dantley for Mark Aguirre, Rodman was coming off, behind Mark Aguirre. But yes, when he went over to the Chicago Bulls, he was playing the 4 because Tony Kukoc was playing the 3 and Rodman was playing the 4. So definitely Rodman can be a 4 here. And look at you, man. My man, he jumped. Yes, he's the mailman. He's the mailman. But let's see if he can deliver, because right now we've been going down on his list, and his name hasn't come up. So let's see if he can deliver as being the best of the best. So stay tuned to that. Yes. Elvin Hayes. Okay, definitely. That's another good name. That's another good name. That is definitely another name. Keep them coming. If you're watching us on LinkedIn, if you're watching us on YouTube, let us know your top 10 NBA power forwards, the best of the best of all times, the all times of power forwards. Let us know in the chat if you're just joining us. That's what we're talking about here on NBA Sports Talk with Walter Strong III. Let us know in the chat where you're watching us from. Give us a hashtag Team Live. And if you're watching the replay up to this point, I truly appreciate it. Give us a hashtag Team Replay in the comments section. All right. So we did Dirk. Number 4, the big ticket. I think his name was thrown out earlier in our conversation as we just started. The big ticket, Kevin Garnett, who got drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves, who ultimately being with the Boston Celtics. He ended up being with the Brooklyn Nets. I think he went with the Clippers at one point. So there's just a few teams that he went to, but 19 season. This brother went to work. He, as a power forward, this man went to work. 15-time All-Star, Defensive Player of the Year, ended up winning a regular season MVP, ended up becoming an NBA champion with the Boston Celtics with Ray Allen and Paul Pierce, where he ended up, declaring that most popular famous quote, "Anything is possible." Okay, I'm sorry. We're having a show here. We're not having, we're having a sports talk show. We're not trying to, but I'm sorry. Big ticket, my man, NBA champion, 17.8 points per season, 10-point rebounds per season, 3.7 assists. Another brother who did work at number 4. All right, we're down to the top 3. We are down to the top 3 here on NBA Sports Talk with Walter Strong III. We're breaking down the top 10 NBA's best power forwards of all time. Who's my number 3? You ready, Frank? You ready, Florence, Gabe, Dr. Jamal, and those of you who are just joining us in? Let us know in the chat where you're watching us from, whether on YouTube or LinkedIn. Who's our number 3? Here we go. Number 3, the mailman, Karl Malone. Started with the Utah Jazz, put in some serious work delivering the mail. Another Mr. Consistency, Iron Man for 19 seasons, a 14-time All-Star, a two-time regular season MVP, 25 points per 25 points per, as a career average, 10.1 rebounds per average for a career, and 3.6. And he had his chances. He had his chances to become an NBA champion. He did 2 times against Michael Jordan. And most notably, in Game 1, when he was at the free throw on a Sunday night, Scottie Pippen whispered something to his ear, and he missed the free throws. And then later on, it was said that he missed the free throws because the mail is not delivered on Sunday. And so the mailman couldn't deliver. You remember that? That's the only context I'm going to talk about the Chicago Bulls. But anyway, and then he had a shot with the 2004 Lakers with Gary Payton, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Devin George, Derek Fisher, Phil Jackson. But they ran into a team, 2004, Larry Brown, put together by my good man Joe Dumars, the Detroit Pistons, the working man's team, with Chauncey Billups ended up becoming the MVP. And because of some serious injuries late in the playoffs and in the Western Conference Finals, Karl Malone could not compete. And he ended up falling short, not being able to bring an NBA championship. But he's my number 3. He's still my number 3. Let's go to number 2. Number two. Charles Barkley. Sir Charles, some noble teams that he's been on. He started with the Philadelphia 76ers, with the Phoenix Suns. He had a shot against Michael Jordan with the Suns. Ended up being a regular season MVP, but ended up falling short to Michael Jordan, like most players do. Ewing, Barkley, Magic, and Malone, Peyton, and Kemp. Nothing to be ashamed of. But Charles Barkley at one time was probably considered the second best player during that era, right behind Michael Jordan. So for 16 seasons, 11-time All-Star. Regular season MVP, 22.1 points career average, 11.7 rebounds, 3.9 assists, just to name a few. So he definitely was doing work himself. Let's just jump back over to the chat before we unveil our number one. So let me see what we got here. Karl Malone's. I'll go right here. Frank said Karl Malone. So Karl Malone is number 3. We went over Alvin Hayes. Okay, here we got a name here. Anthony Mason. Yes, sir. Oh, he would definitely be another honorable mention, special mention. We'll get into our special honorable mentions shortly. But that's a name. Oh, look at this one. Oh, she said Wes Unseld. Oh my goodness. Hallelujah. 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 Yes, got to give my man Wes Unseld some love. Some love. We got to give him some love. Got to give him some love. Keep those coming. Keep those coming. I hope you're enjoying this top 10 NBA power forwards, the best of the best of all time, the greatest in history, in my opinion. And you may say, before we unveil our number one, well, where is Giannis? Where is Giannis? Where is Anthony Davis? Well, I felt that if I'm going to put this list together, this list had to consist of former players who finished their career. Anthony Davis still has work to do. He has one NBA champion. Giannis has won an NBA championship. He's won 2-time regular season MVP. He is a defensive player of the year. Multiple All-Stars for them both. So the record is still being written on those guys. And so that's the reason why I didn't add. Now, if you ask me, where would I put Anthony Davis? I would probably put Anthony Davis in place of Zach Randolph. I would still keep Larry Johnson, but I would no, I wouldn't keep Larry Johnson. I would take Larry Johnson off and I would take Zach Randolph off. But what would happen is Anthony Davis would probably be either 10 or 9. But where I had Kevin Garnett, that's where Giannis would go. But the work is still going on. And so that's the reason why they're not on this list. But hey, this is our list over here at NBA Sports Talk with Walter Strong III. I need to know your list. I need your top 10. So whether in the chat or on the replay in the comments section, I need your top 10 list. Frank, I need your top 10 list. Florence, Gabe, and Dr. Jamal, and those of you who are checking this out on LinkedIn or YouTube, hashtag Team Replay in the comments, give me your top 10. So without further ado, if we can get this right, let's get to number 1. Yes, number 1, the big fundamental, Tim Duncan. Let's take our time here with this one. He's the best, in my opinion, of power forwards. He's a multiple time NBA champion. For 19 seasons, he's been a 15-time All-Star. For 19 seasons, he's won the regular season MVP award twice. He's been in the finals 5 times. One final MVP went to Tony Parker. Another one went to Kawhi Leonard. So he's been to the finals 5 times. But of those 5, he's won 3 finals MVPs. Okay. Points, career average, 19 points, career average, 10.8 rebounds, 3.0 assists. This brother is truly the true definition of the big fundamental. Another interesting point I want to share with those of you here are part of NBA Sports Talk community, sometimes people would ask, Shaq and the late great Kobe Bryant when he was alive, if Shaq and Kobe would have been able to put their differences aside and to coexist, how many championships did they think they would win? And, depending on who you were talking to, Kobe, Shaq would say he felt that definitely thought they would probably get 6 to 7. But I like Kobe Bryant's response. Kobe felt that if Shaq would have been in shape and he had the work ethic that Kobe Bryant had, he definitely thought that they would have had 10. However, another reason why it became so difficult for them to be able to stay together and to win with longevity was because of, in his opinion, the San Antonio Spurs, Greg Popovich, and Tim Duncan. Because that, those were the two teams that were battling out. If you remember the shot that Derek Fisher hoisted up at the buzzer, and then the Lakers ran out, and before it could even be reviewed, the San Antonio Spurs were like the last two teams that were always battling it out in the Western Conference Finals or the Western Conference semifinals. Yeah, every now and then you had the Phoenix Suns, but for the most part, it was the Spurs. It was the Spurs and the Lakers. And Kobe said, hey, if there was not the San Antonio Spurs standing in their way, that yes, they would have ended up winning multiple championships. He felt that he would have ended up either tying or breaking Michael Jordan's titles for multiple titles and having more than 6. But you got to tip your hat to your competition and Tim Duncan, who now is a Hall of Famer, just like the late great Kobe Bryant. And so this is why he is number one. He is the number one best power forward. And so let's just do a summary right quick, and then we're going to jump over to the chat, get some other names. I will share my honorable mentions. So, in recapping, Larry Johnson, Zach Randolph at number 9, Rasheed Wallace, number 8, Chris Webber, number 7, Kevin McHale, number 6, Dirk Nowitzki, number 5, Kevin Garnett, number 4, Karl Malone, number 3, Charles Barkley, number 2, and Tim Duncan, number 1. There you have the top 10 NBA power forwards, the best of all time. My question to you, whether if you're on LinkedIn, you're watching this live or on the replay, or YouTube, watching live or the replay, who are your top 10 NBA power forwards of all time? Put them in the chat or in the comments section if you're watching the replay. And so there you have our top 10 for the power forwards. Now, guess what? Before we get into honorable mentions, this coming Sunday at 8 p.m., we're going to get into the shooting guards. We're not going to go to the point guards. We're not going to go to the big men. Okay. We are going to go to the shooting guards next. So you want to tune in at 8 p.m. On YouTube and LinkedIn for the top 10, the best of all time shooting guards in the NBA history. So get your names ready. So let's talk about honorable mentions. We're going to jump back over the chat, and we're going to bring this train into the station because this has been a great show, great show with new individuals joining us on LinkedIn and on YouTube on NBA Sports Talk, as well as our regular community, faithful of NBA Sports Talk community. Some honorable mentions. And we mentioned Sean Kemp. He's an honorable mention. But hey, Frank and Florence, and those of you who are listening on LinkedIn or YouTube, here's another honorable mention for you. Do you remember Roy Tarpley of the Dallas Mavericks? I when I was a young person watching those young Piston teams with Kelly Tribuca and Isaiah Thomas and Ken Benson, I do remember those Dallas Mavericks teams of Roy Tarpley, Tarek Harper, and Rolando Blackman. I do remember those teams. So I definitely had to give him as a special mention. And then you have, as I said, Sean Kemp, Roy Tarpley. And then if I was going to pick another special mention power forward, I would probably go with Terry Cummings of the Milwaukee Bucks. I would go with Terry Cummings as my special mention. Those would be my 3 special mentions. Would love to know your special mentions. Who would not make your top 10 list for power forwards, but those are my special mentions. And so we've been talking about the top 10, the best of the best NBA power forwards of all time here on NBA Sports Talk with Walter Strong III. If you are just joining us, give us a hashtag Team Live, whether on LinkedIn or on YouTube. Click the thumbs up button for us. This lets LinkedIn and YouTube know that you are enjoying this. And this is some truly, truly great content that we are all enjoying together. And again, no disrespect to Shaq's list or Bird's list or Doc's list, but I figured, okay, if we're going to do a top 10 list, similar like how we did the defensive players of the year, which we've declared, and we feel that Ben Wallace is the top 10 best of the best defensive player of the year. We said, okay, let's start with the power forwards. Sunday, we're going to start with the shooting guards, and then we're going to go by position. Then we'll even get into the 6-man player of the year. And then once we've covered those, then we'll just go ahead and put a whole complete list together of all of the top 10, rather if you're a power forward, center, shooting guard, point guard, or small forward, then we'll go ahead and put, and depending on how this series, if you want to call it a series, how it's going, maybe we'll get into the coaches. Maybe we'll get into the coaches as well and list some coaches. So that's it for tonight's show. But I want to encourage you, as you are putting your list together for Sunday, your top 10 shooting guards, check out our latest episode on the best top 10 defensive players of the year. Check out that recent episode, and hey, let it be a conversation this weekend with family, with friends. Maybe you got to go to the barber shop. Maybe you got to go and get some work done with your car. You got to go to the beauty salon, get your hair done, and talk to the sisters. Because sisters and women, they like the NBA too now. So, so you got this list here. You got some good conversation. And so we are just truly grateful. So we're going to go ahead and bring this train into the station. But again, I want to thank Florence, Frank, our faithful of the NBA Community Talk crew, some of our new visitors joining us for the first time over on LinkedIn, Gabe, Dr. Jamal, and others. We truly thank you stopping by, and we definitely love to see you again. And so we're going to go ahead and bring this to a close. But again, YouTube also is going to show you, once we get that end screen set up, they're going to let you know some more content to watch. So you want to definitely continue to check us out and keep the conversation going in the live chat and the comment section. So we will see you on Sunday, NBA Sports Talk with Walter Strong III. God bless.